Hello, welcome to Week in Review. I'm Adam Boulton. Kevin Maguire and Andrew Pearce are here with me to look back at the biggest stories of the past 7 days. So, Kevin, what was your top story?
I think it's got to be the continuing saga, that is that lying racist Trump.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely.
And yours?
Historic moment, at last. We're on the way. The Brexit vote was a big vote for Brexit and Article 50 being triggered, at last.
And that is indeed our top story this week. We finally got to see the plan for the UK's exit from the European Union. MPs have voted overwhelmingly to trigger the start of the process after 2 days of impassioned debate. Our political editor, Faisal Islam, reports.
Boston in Lincolnshire, the most Eurosceptic place in the UK, 75% voted leave.
Once we leave, we'll have to determine our own immigration policy in relation to the EU.
MPs from the Commons Brexit Committee are on the road here trying to understand what the public really want from Brexit. In the Commons, finally, David Davis delivered the white paper on his Brexit strategy.
Our best days are still to come. Delivering a smooth, mutually beneficial exit, avoiding a disruptive cliff edge will be the key.
But too little, too late, said the opposition.
This statement says nothing. The Secretary of State now makes a statement saying there'll be a white paper, but the white paper has not been delivered until a few minutes ago so that we can meaningfully actually ask him questions about it.
It is 77 pages and expands a bit on the Prime Minister's speech last month. Some elements seemed a little rushed, including an erroneous chart suggesting Britons enjoy 3 months' holiday a year. The key promises, that pledge that we will take control of our own affairs, meaning an end to the role of the European Court of Justice, but it could be replaced by other dispute resolution mechanisms. Controlling immigration is key for the government, but it says there may be a phased process of implementation, including new laws. Although membership of the single market's ruled out, we're told Theresa May will prioritise securing the freest and most frictionless trade possible between the UK and the EU. Back in Boston, how immigration is controlled is the big unknown. Unilaterally guaranteeing the rights of EU nationals in Britain could yet be the flashpoint in the Commons next week.
Well, Kevin, I mean, what interests me is everyone's saying, oh, it's a hooray, we're on the way out, as Andrew Pearce was saying, but it's not, as Faisal was saying. This has still got to get through Parliament before...
No, absolutely. And if it takes you 8 months to come up with a 77-page white paper riddled with errors, let's try and see you wrap up negotiations in 2 years to disentangle Britain from 44 years of cooperation. Now, you're right. I think the big votes are next week when MPs will attempt to guide the negotiations, important issues on will MPs get a vote before the final deal is accepted? Will she have to report back Theresa May regularly? Will they see impact studies on what for jobs, earnings, security, prosperity, every move she makes would have?
So a bigger Labour rebellion next week, you think?
I would have thought so. 47 on the initial vote, I think it'll be bigger. And there's going to be more resignations if Jeremy Corbyn has the strength to sack people who will not go along with it.
The revolt was bigger because there were quite a lot of abstentions too. I think we were up to about 60, which is a huge rebellion, really, when you think it's a 3-line whip. And for years, it was the Conservative Party that was bedevilled by damaging division on Europe. One Tory voted against, Ken Clarke, who's like a grandee and emeritus Europhile, and even people like Anna Soubry came on side because they know the damage potentially for them at the ballot box. But I think we're going to see more trouble next week. But I do think the scale of the victory for the government sends an important signal to the House of Lords where there could be potentially real trouble.
But I wouldn't ignore the Tory divisions, which I think will become apparent as once you get into the detail.
I don't think they'll be on the scale of the Labour Party.
No, it's true. Labour's got the big problem there. Teddy, the Tory Prime Minister, takes us into Europe, then it destroys Thatcher, Major, certainly Cameron. May is not out of the woods on this yet.
But we are on the way out.
We are. About time too.
Unless there's a second referendum.
There won't be, Kevin.
Well, I'll tell you where you could stop it.
Good luck.
But also by the next general election, we won't be fully out because it's far more complex than you pretended in the referendum.
There is not going to be a second referendum in your dreams.
OK, well, this is not going to be the last week that Europe is our top story. But in a busy week of news, here are 5 things that you might have missed or perhaps even forgotten already. 6 people were murdered in an attack on a mosque in Canada. A student, Alexandra Bissonnette, was charged with carrying out the killings during evening prayers. He reportedly had nationalist and right-wing sympathies. It was revealed that a chef who travelled to Syria to join the Kurds in their fight against the Islamic State killed himself to avoid capture. Ryan Locke is reported to have died in December during the offensive to retake the city of Raqqa from IS. The 20-year-old, who had no military experience, joined the militia last August after telling his family he was going on holiday to Turkey. The sister of the murdered MP Jo Cox launched a project Cox was working on before her death, a commission on loneliness. Friends and colleagues will work alongside 13 organisations and charities to help those who feel isolated. 250,000 people took to the streets in Romania to protest about changes to corruption laws. The government wants to free or reduce the sentences of officials who've been jailed for corruption and remove the offence of criminal negligence. And now for our gaffe of the week. Imagine training for a half marathon, enduring the physical and mental challenge of completing the course, only to have your time struck from the record books. Well, that's what happened to the 32,000 people who took part in last year's Great Scottish Run. It turns out those responsible for measuring the course came up short, 150 metres short, in fact. Event organisers have apologised to the participants. And gentlemen, I mean, you must be gutted. Your record's being wiped out like that.
I used to
struggle to run the 150 metres, let alone the half marathon.
I used to run half marathons, the Great North Run.
Yeah,
but I think
tense.
Callum Hawkins, who won this one, 1 hour and 20 odd seconds. It must be gut-wrenching for him. Absolutely gut-wrenching.
And don't forget, you can send us your nominations using the hashtag WInHour. Well, this week, train commuters also had something to smile about after rail firms launched a trial scheme to simplify ticketing. It's aimed to make the cheapest option the easiest option for passengers. Sky's Adele Robinson explains.
Andy Brown uses trains in the south most weeks. Like others, he's confused by what deals are best.
I often travel where I will go away for a few days, so getting a return ticket that covers a span of time and getting the right one, that's impossible.
Of course, he's not alone.
It's easy enough to use the machines, but whether you're getting the best cost for your route is not clear.
It's something the rail industry itself recognises. Train companies and Network Rail have come up with a pilot action plan to overhaul ticket pricing, offering best value automatically and eliminating the need for split ticketing, which may help somewhat mitigate the extreme lengths some have had to go to get the best value. This Newcastle supporter bought 56 tickets for 2 people to go to Oxford and back, saving £60. Train companies will pilot the reforms on selected routes, a step in the right direction, but in the midst of rising ticket prices, passengers say they want much, much more.
Well, it seems to me, even if you buy one ticket, you get about 3 bits of paper out of the machine. Now, how did this 56 tickets work?
The 2 of them were travelling from Newcastle to Oxford. Newcastle lost, actually, 3-0. But you got your tickets for the stations in between. Instead of getting a single ticket all the way from Newcastle to Oxford, you might have gone to Durham, then Darlington, and so on. Total nonsense. But the whole system is these profit-hungry rail companies are out to make as much money from you as they can. I'm glad the government's starting to force them, but this happens time after time after time.
I thought the idea was, you know, you paid according to how many miles you travelled.
Yeah,
if only.
It should be. If you buy your ticket from a machine, and don't forget, a lot of ticket offices have been closed down because we're in an automated era, the cheapest ticket for the time should come up, but it doesn't. It is absolutely baffling. I know I'm only of limited intelligence, but I struggle with these machines. Imagine people who are here from abroad. We've got record numbers of foreign people here. It is confusing. My worry is, though, if we do then start to get the cheapest tickets because they are forced to simplify it, how will they get the revenue back? They'll put the fares up even more because they are the biggest rip-offs in commercial business.
I think they've got you'll find they've got pretty fat profits, the fat controllers of
and they're still getting billions from the government.
Well, we should say a small bit of good news for Southern Rail users that one of the unions...
Only one, Adam. Only one.
It's got to be accepted by the drivers themselves, but the union ASLEF has recommended it. The guards dispute is still ongoing. We're not sure of the details, but no, it's got it settled. But drivers had, and I'm sure guards do also, legitimate safety concerns.
Yeah, right. Except that the same parent company runs trains on a different company on the same route without conductors, without any problem at all. And just when that's all beginning to get resolved, just when it's just beginning to get resolved, the tubes are on strike for 3 days next week.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Quiz of the week. Can you tell me how what's on your feet could affect your brain?
Oh dear.
Any ideas?
No.
Oh, I think I might know.
No, you don't.
I don't know.
Answers after the break. Welcome back to Week in Review. I'm Adam Boulton, and joining me are Kevin Maguire, Associate Editor of the Daily Mirror, and Andrew Pearce, Consultant Editor of the Daily Mail. Well, before the break, we asked you, can you tell me why what's on your feet could affect your brain? And you've obviously got the right thing on your feet.
Me, sir. I know, sir.
Kevin knows the answer.
He doesn't know, sir. He doesn't know. It is slippers. There was a school experimenting by and allowing pupils to wear slippers instead of shoes. It was great.
What, if you put slippers on your feet?
You just relax more. You will study better. It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? You think, right, you've got to wear your uniform, your shoes, dress for school, get you to focus. But in fact, it seems to be working.
Do you own slippers? Because I'm afraid I don't.
I do.
I knew you
but I'm a suburban.
Fogey ones.
I'm a suburban man. You're in the metropolitan elite.
Yeah. Well, there you are. All right. Week 2 of Donald Trump's presidency, and no sign of the new man in the White House slowing down or changing his approach. His travel ban on people from 7 predominantly Muslim countries saw thousands of people protest in the streets and at airports. Mr. Trump then turned his attention to international diplomacy with some rather mixed results. Sky's US correspondent Greg Milam reports.
Rex Tillerson is the man Donald Trump chose to serve as America's chief diplomat. He can hardly have expected that within hours of this swearing in, he'd be facing the most extraordinary diplomatic row with one of his country's closest allies. This weekend phone call between Trump and Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, it turns out, didn't go well. It's reported Trump cut the call short during a discussion over a deal to resettle mostly Muslim refugees rejected by Australia in the US. Trump tweeted, "Do you believe it? The Obama administration agreed to take thousands of illegal immigrants from Australia. Why? I will study this dumb deal." It comes with the Trump administration already facing its first serious foreign policy test. It says Iran's decision to carry out more of this, test firing ballistic missiles, breaches UN resolutions. If not, the nuclear deal that Trump has consistently criticised. Trump's new national security advisor delivered this warning.
President Trump has severely criticized the various agreements reached between Iran and the Obama administration, as well as the United Nations, as being weak and ineffective. Instead of being thankful to the United States in these agreements, Iran is now feeling emboldened. As of today, we are officially putting Iran on notice. Thank you.
On notice of what, the White House wouldn't say, nor whether military action was on or off the table. It has been reported that in a phone call last week, Trump threatened the Mexican president with sending US troops to deal with what he called bad hombres. It wasn't, the White House said, a threat to invade Mexico.
So, Andrew, I mean, anything wrong, really, with telling other world leaders what you really think?
Well, he's just going to do it in a different way, isn't he? That's the point. It's called megaphone diplomacy. We've heard that expression before, but literally, with Donald Trump, that's what he does. You'd have thought he'd have wanted to have a better relationship with the Prime Minister of Australia. It's a traditional ally of the United States. And to alienate him, shouting at him, swearing at him, and then cut off the call, and then to brag about it. It seems extraordinary.
Come on, he's a prize idiot, Trump, and he'll soon discover it. We'll go very
He's
wrong.
not an idiot.
You need skills in this job. He misrepresents everything. It was going to be a people swap with Australia. And you've got the ridiculous position now to justify his racist travel ban. You have his aide in the White House, Kellyanne Conway, inventing a massacre by Islamists in the state, the Bowling Green massacre. It never happened. It doesn't exist. It's pure fantasy.
But the thing is,
this is utterly crazy.
The ban is what he said he would do in his in the presidential campaign. He's carrying out his promise.
No. Except he did say in the campaign, he said he wanted to ban on Muslims.
Yes.
He now says this isn't a Muslim ban.
Well, he says it's a predominantly Muslim country. But also the list, of course, he got from Obama. And people say, why not Saudi Arabia? Why not Egypt? He did. It was
another invention. Obama had no intention of banning people from
that
those
list.
This is it. Look, do not try to defend the indefensible. You will get into a swamp and it'll suck you in.
But what
You'll
I'm saying
go into the mad world of Donald Trump.
Donald Trump's policy is proving very popular in the United States, where polls have given him a massive lead on this. He knows exactly what he's doing. Kevin says he's an idiot. He's not an idiot. He wouldn't be an idiot. He's got to become president of the United States by being very, very clever.
Or by lying.
He's
lying
president
again.
of the United
lying
States.
A bit more after that.
And that this policy is popular.
Dripping poison.
And people say, why didn't he bring in the ban with Saudi Arabia? Oh, Kevin says he's got business interests. Actually, apparently there's intelligence share between the United States and Saudi Arabia, which is why he didn't do Saudi Arabia.
Business interest.
Now on to your choices of top newspaper stories of the week. Andrew, the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Justin Welby put on the spot because this investigation into the summer camps that took place in the late 70s and 1980s, it was ostensibly a church summer camp. He was working as a volunteer at this camp where the guy who ran it, John Smythe, who's a QC now in South Africa, was subjecting teenage boys, to severe beatings. He was making them strip naked and beating them with a cane. And it was their punishment, and it was and there was a sexual undertone, it suggested, to what he was doing. He's in South Africa, says he's done nothing wrong. Winchester School has been dragged into this because some of their pupils went to these camps and the school was aware of the abuse, and it is a form of abuse.
Oh, come on, yeah.
And it never got referred to the police. It was covered up.
The Archbishop has apologised, though.
He has apologised, and he said the church should have done more, the school should have done more.
He hasn't said whether he knew what was going on there.
He says he knew nothing about it. He said he hadn't even heard a whisper.
It's embarrassing for him, but there was an era when the BBC questions over Stuart Hall and Jimmy Savile,
absolutely.
Rotherham, we know, institutionalised abuse.
It's slightly different, this, because, I mean, some of the people who were being caned were 21. I mean, they were adults.
Yeah, no, but it's still exploitation, it's still abuse, and people were being preyed upon.
Yeah. Kevin, your story.
It's a ban on CVs at Ernst & Young, one of the big accountancy companies, and they found, if you look at a CV, you begin to favour certain people. So they've gone blind, and more working-class kids are getting recruited, non-private school kids, and they're beginning to rate them on ability with tests rather than looking at which school they went to and their backgrounds, even if you have work experience, because well-connected people can get their kids in. And they're finding they're getting better accountants. It should be more widespread, because there is a problem that a small group in society is hogging the jobs, and a lot of very talented kids are being locked out.
Yeah, I mean, as one who went to a state school comprehensive, I think it's great. But you see why they view CVs in the past, because it's a quick filter.
Yeah. No, I would have thought...
And efficient.
I used to be a big supporter of using CVs. I'm not so sure now after this. You know, the proof is there in the recruits, Ernst & Young.
When did they have hired you?
Are you wasting your life being a motorist?
No, fortunately.
I
haven't had a car. I haven't had a car since 1988. But according to this research now, motorists are spending 4 days a year not raging at traffic jams, which is probably 14 days a year, trying to park a car. The average motorist in London, it's 8 minutes, because there are not enough spaces, and if it was me, when I'd find the space, it'd be another 8 minutes trying to park the car, because I'm no good at parking.
I'm a little suspicious of the time here, but I am relieved that you don't drive.
I do drive, I just don't have a car.
No, keep it that way. There's enough danger on the roads as it is.
Kevin does the weekly shop in his car.
I do. Well, I drive.
How long does it take to park?
Right,
Actually,
another story you may feel you've heard before. The actor playing Doctor Who is retiring.
He is Peter Capaldi.
Peter Capaldi.
And the 13th Doctor, we'll find one in December, could be a woman, could regenerate as a woman, Olivia Colman, who's a fantastic actor.
It won't happen.
Superb in Broadchurch 2012. Why not?
Does she want it?
After more than 50... Well, it doesn't matter whether it's her. You could easily have a woman and
Well, it's
regenerate.
quite interesting. I have noticed, apparently, not that I watch Doctor Who, but I do follow these things, that all Doctor Who's sidekicks are currently men.
Yeah.
So it'd be logical to have a woman.
Yeah, and she's a terrific actress and we love her, and Broadchurch is back in the next few weeks and she is fantastic. I've got to say, I'm glad Peter Capaldi's
Sidekicks are women, you mean, don't you? I'm just thinking, the sidekicks are usually women.
Peter Capaldi, who stood down, was useless.
He was. He wasn't as good as Matt Smith or
David Tennant.
Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant. He was poor, but he wasn't as bad as Peter Davison.
Oh, John Pertwee was my favourite. Who's your favourite?
Those great coats.
Showing your age. I think it was Christopher Eccleston.
David Tennant.
Yeah.
All right, there we are. Well, thank you very much indeed for that look at the weekly newspapers. What about the thumbs up and thumbs down of the week? The ups and downs. Andrew.
This is this rapper called Drake, who, of course, I've never heard of, but he's offered a refund to people who went to his gig after one of his fellow performers fell through a hole in the stage. Which is remarkable, and I think we can see it. Look, just watch this. We shouldn't laugh, but one does. So here he goes.
This is an up, but it's actually a down.
Yeah, but it's a refund. He's gone down, but we think it's up because he's offered a refund, and I'm not quite sure. I don't think the performer was hurt too badly. I mean, look, he's all right.
I'd pay extra to see that.
Yeah, exactly.
The performer actually said he quite enjoyed it.
I think he did.
But I understand what it did was it stopped some special effects working.
Oh, is that right?
Which is why the money was coming.
Who'd want to go see a rapper anyway?
All right.
Lots of people.
And who's down?
Northern Lights. Now, these are these fantastic, dazzling arrays of solar arrays that we see sometimes. Because of changes in solar energy powers, which I don't understand because it's far too technical for me, we may not see them over Britain anymore, and they will be restricted to the North Pole area. No, it's to do with wind and movements of solar energy, apparently.
I think some changes are natural. We cause others. I think global warming, climate change, man-made, is real. But I think this is just over time. It's rather like in the 16th century with there was like a mini ice age, and the Thames would freeze over and so on.
Danube's frozen at the moment. Have either of you ever seen the Northern Lights?
No, sadly not. We better get in there quick.
Exactly.
And Kevin, your choices then. Up.
Lego. It is now considered the most powerful brand in the world, overtaking Disney. And I just love the fact that these little colourful blocks you build, I did it as a kid, I've done it with my own kids. It's still there, and it's rather simple. And in an age when computer games, although they have branched out and so on, it's taken you a while to do that, but nevertheless.
The Lego store on Leicester Square in London, and the run-up to Christmas, they'd have to have bouncers outside to police the queues, and people would only be allowed to go in for about 20 minutes at a time because there was such a stampede. I hated Lego as a child. Loathed it.
My brother never enough bricks to build what you wanted. But
I'll buy you a set for Christmas.
No, thank you.
I'll buy you some. Only a small one.
No. There's also a Lego Batman movie, which is branding on man.
Yeah, it's done very well. There's Legoland down in Windsor. Other theme parks are available. They're very clever with their marketing.
Right, and down?
Oh, it's got to be Johnny Depp, and he's spending. He's suing his business managers, but they're saying, hang on, you've been out of control. $30,000 a month on wine, they say. He spent $3 million on a cannon to send Hunter S. Thompson's ashes into the air. He doesn't just buy an island in the Caribbean, he buys islands. Doesn't just buy a house in France, he buys a village.
How many bottles of wine do you think that is for $30,000?
I think he's pays a bit more per bottle than you do.
It's not the fiver you get. 3 for a tenner you get in Asda.
I think it's probably a very good vintage.
You do you still get your 3 for 10 in Asda?
I sometimes do, yeah. Other supermarkets are available.
I'm glad I never get invited.
Right. So it's Johnny Depp's.
Yes, very good. Bum, bum.
He's going down. Well, thank you very much indeed. And please don't forget, you can send us your nominations. You just have to use the hashtag WInHour. Well, thanks very much indeed for joining us for our review of the week. We will be back next week. For now, it's goodbye from them.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from me. Goodbye.